Hi, everybody. My name is Sarah, and this is Pearls of Wisdom with Keto and me and my cuppa. I'm glad you're here. Remember when it's an old fashioned saying, and I guess at 70, I can remember the days? The, and all my barroom work, of course, was the old saying was, oh, she's in her cups, which was a very gentle and delicate way of saying she's blank, 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 blank faced. She's in her cups. But we do something different here. We have our cuppa. And if you're following clean intermittent fasting, your cuppa is black. And I know that there's a lot of people that will do anything except give up their coffee. And I've been there and I've done that. And I so respect your wish of doing it that way. And if you're getting the results you want, why switch, right? There was somebody in AA one time that said, if I could, how did she, I guess it's one of those ironic twists, but, she said if she wasn't an alcoholic, she'd drink every day. Yeah. If I could, if I could, have my buffet table of desserts every day and get away with it, I probably would. You probably would never have met me because everything would have been just hunky dory and I could have whatever I wanted in the amounts that I wanted, which were, of course, never ending. Well, I thought we'd revisit an old favorite of ours, food funerals. Remember food funerals? Some of you still might have a food funeral or two inside of you. And especially with Easter candy looming on the horizon for us, a food funeral is something that a lot of people have done many times on their way to starting a new, this is it. This is going to work this time. I paid out so many bucks for this program. It had better well work. And so the night before, both being, thinking of economy, as a saving steward, somebody that, appreciates the value of things, they clear out the house as much as they can of all the naughty no-nos because they're never going to have them again. Ever, ever. Because this time, this program that I wrote all these big checks for is gonna work. Remember food funerals? Or maybe you're contemplating one now that's going to happen a couple of days after Easter and you're going to polish off all the peeps, right? I never saw what people like in peeps, but that's them. I'm a different sweet sort of person, not sweet personality, sweet with sweets, and salty with my tone and my words and attitude. Yeah, sweet and salty. You got it. So, a food funeral is when they bring an alcoholic or a drunk or somebody with a drinking problem to a detox, it's been known that oftentimes the driver will stop at many places along the way to get them a pint because usually by then sadly their bodies really need it in order to keep going. And but then there's other times where they just need to be drunk. If I'm going to this detox, I'm going to drink all this now because I'll never have it again. And we do that with the promise of never having that kryptonite food again. In my personal journey, I have a list of kryptonite foods that I can never have again because it's just a ticket to that special place of food hell, and I don't want to go there. But there's other things in a food funeral that many of us have had cleaned out our shelves. We're not going to do this anymore. I'm making way for all the new Jenny Craig or Weight Watchers things, or I'm going vegan for a month, or, I'm never having sugar again in the house, or maybe I'm throwing out all the stevia, Truvia, Sweet and Low, Splenda, what's the blue one? All the packets, all of the desserts, all of the Weight Watcher novelties in the refrigerator or freezer. I'm throwing everything out, but I'm not really throwing it out. I'm going to have it first. I'm going to ingest it first. And that, my friends, is a food funeral because you never think you're going to have it again. And I know that my fear of a couple of items on my favorite list, I thought I could never, ever, ever have again. And so I've had my funerals. I've had my share of sweet and salty, hot and spicy, you name it. And little but slowly I found or I learned or I came upon the fact that there are keto versions of treats or staples or things that you can have in your new food keto lifestyle that will work for you. So all is not lost. You don't have to have a food funeral unless it's getting rid of the junk in the house where, you know, that food coach comes in. I mean, we've all seen those shows, those episodes where, the coach will come in with the, double heavy, thick 4-ply trash bag and just do this to your fridge and because you're never having those things again. And true, some of those things in the standard American diet way of making them and presenting them and having them is something you might not have again, but they're keto versions. One in hand that for me is a game changer, game saver, lifestyle saver is like the spaghetti squash, right? You can have the spaghetti squash with your keto lifestyle so you can still have your, meat sauce with the spaghetti squash being pasta, or you can have a keto pizza, either make it at home, using one of the cream cheese, what is it? The cream cheese and the egg and the mozzarella. I think that's how when I did it for a long, long time. Or, getting a cauliflower crust sort of pizza. So you can still have the things and they become what your version of, safe is, as well as, that's what spaghetti with meat sauce looks, or zucchini, the spiral thing. That's kind of cool too. And so we become used to these things in our journey. And so after the food funeral, it's kind of great because we can have that. But having that food funeral is kind of a sad way of saying, goodbye, standard American diet. I'm sorry. You're just not welcome here anymore. And getting on with it. I talk about a whole bunch of things here, but the food funeral, like you might have it a couple of days after Christmas, getting rid of all the things that came in tins and bags and boxes. And, they have to, you have to eat them. You can't just put them in the trash, right? Or you could do what I did many, many times, which is just have so much disgust and be so repulsed with my eating and my habits and my behavior that I threw stuff out only to be, yeah, you got it. That's right. Digging through the trash for final bites. I find that coffee grounds are the best deal breaker for going through the trash. That will kill it because, finding a leftover dessert in the trash with coffee grounds on it, it's unpalatable, right? Or cracking, expired eggs raw over the items. You're not going to necessarily dive back in for those. But I do know people that have done the same sort of thing, looking for the same sort of relief, one more bite in the food funeral as it goes. But you don't have to have a food funeral, but if you do, I totally, totally understand. But once I was able to find the keto sort of replacements, not the binge-worthy stuff, not the kryptonite that I call it, but the sort of other items that don't fall into the binge category that you can't go near again, but the sort of, gee, I'd still like to have this. Like, for example, I haven't made it yet, but I've got the recipe because getting recipes for me is kind of like getting books, like from my boyfriend Mark Sisson, is that, you know, you get them, you acquire them, and then you don't use them. But the latest that I got was the cabbage lasagna with ricotta and the ground beef and the slices of the cabbage in place of the lasagna. And so, if that's something you miss, it's not a binge food, but it's just something that you really like the keto version of, look for it. There's so many recipes out there, and the keto world of people that do recipes and show you how, the how-tos, the recipe books, the videos, it's really been great because it's been such a help for people that still want some sort of version. And I used to mock that. I used to think that, I mocked Weight Watchers for having all these kind of sort of like real foods beating the standard American diet, of course. And, it's like, ew, all of that. But, as my tastes evolved, I love casseroles. I love the idea of that. I love the idea of zucchini, spiral zucchini, spaghetti squash, things like that. Even going from like a yellow or a white baked potato to a sweet potato because it's grown above ground, and it's such a powerhouse of nutrients. And it's not one of those nightshades that's, underground that bothers so many people. So just in finding what works for you, that doesn't make you want to binge, that doesn't make you need a food funeral. I think that produce is something that like a higher power intended. The for some people it's the apple on the tree, it's the orange, it's a pear. A pear with cottage cheese, to me is like a dessert. Having cottage cheese with some cinnamon sprinkled on it, that's a dessert. Some people even warm it up, so it's almost like a pudding or something like that. So we all find things along the way that take care of not having another food funeral in our future. Some people have even worked through a lot of their binge issues, their food issues, their sugar issues, their other types of issues for things like the rare and appropriate, where they can have an item of something and work through it either by journaling or by a lot of head work or by a lot of like feeling how their body handles it, a rare and appropriate such and such, right? And so, our journey evolves. We don't stay stagnant. So long after the food funeral, we want to invite some products perhaps back into our life that we enjoyed, we didn't overdo, but we kind of miss. And some of it might have some standard American diet aspects to it. Others could be just, how nature intended things, not highly processed, no white flour, no white sugar, no artificial sweeteners, even no alternative sweeteners. That can be trouble for people too. So, but food funerals are turning points in our lives. It's where it's like you can keep going with this and have food funerals with standard American items and be miserable and pay big bucks to be in a program, where you lose what you're paying somebody to lose your weight. Or, like a lot of us had found, we find keto, we find the community that we're comfortable in, the food funerals stop, the standard American way of eating stops, we find keto replacements that keep us sane, that keep us sober, that keep us abstinent. Those three words that I like to live by and I ask for help with every single day. 24 hours of sanity, sobriety, and abstinence. Those are the things that work for me, where I can get wonky and twitchy and all of those sort of things. But you don't have to have another food funeral. You have to pay attention, There's tons of work involved. This is not overnight. This is like 6 or 7 years of me doing keto. Some of the observations I've had from people that I've worked with as clients, some people here in the community, some people that have become friends here in the community that I do this with, and we share and exchange ideas either with emails or just through the comments. But getting to that place, it takes a day at a time. That's it. And so there is a structured and disciplined place you need to be, in giving up the standard American diet lifestyle, and turning over to the keto lifestyle. There could be months or years in that transition, and it's just as it should be. So don't compare yourself with others that like, oh, I got it right away. I lost 35 pounds and, and I'm 32 years old. Good. I'm very happy for you. I'm talking about those of us that are older. We've got quite a lot of decades in us. We've deranged our metabolism as far as we can, and we need to find some gut health, some head sanity and sobriety, and just food abstinence, right? It's a day at a time. Enjoy that little day, because as we all know, after this last year, it could change just like that, and we don't want that again, And with our food, when that's in order, a lot of the other parts of life that are crazy, chaotic, and messy can get more into shape and into place. And life becomes a pretty kind of neat thing, For me, it's with the food, because that's where my head goes. So anyway, thanks for being here today. My name is Sarah. This is Pearls of Wisdom and Food with Keto. I'm so glad you're here. I will see you here the next time. Thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye for now.